Ben Vereen and Roy Scheider in a flashy musical number from All That Jazz, a bittersweet show business autobiography and one of 5 new movies we'll be reviewing this week on Sneak Previews. And this is Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times.
And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, film critic of the Chicago Tribune. In addition to All That Jazz, about which we are in very serious disagreement, we'll also be reviewing Robert Redford and Jane Fonda in The Electric Horseman, Sean Connery in Cuba, George Burns in Going in Style, and now Gene starts with The Black Hole.
My first film is one of the most eagerly awaited movies of the holiday season. Walt Disney Productions' The Black Hole, a $20 million space adventure that's being billed, I think, as Disney's answer to Star Wars. Sad to say, though, it's not much of an answer. The story is about an American space exploration team that stumbles upon 2 strange objects in deep space, a gigantic spaceship that's been missing for 20 years, and a strange funnel-like formation called a black hole. The crew includes Ernest Borgnine, Anthony Perkins, Yvette Mimieux, and a tin can version of the little robot from Star Wars.
My God! Right out of Dante's Inferno.
Yes. The most destructive force in the universe, Harry. Nothing can escape it, not even light.
I had a professor who predicted that eventually black holes would devour the entire universe.
Why not? When you can see giant suns sucked in and disappear without a trace. Give us some magnification, Vincent.
Every time I see one of those things, I expect to spot some guy in red with horns and a pitchfork.
It's a monster, all right.
A rip in the very fabric of space and time. But I picked up something else of interest.
Let's see it.
It hasn't moved since I first picked it up. It seems to be some kind of ship.
USS Cygnus. Its mission to discover habitable life in outer space. Same as ours.
Now that was thoroughly dull, at least I think so. The crew is a bunch of mopes. The interior of that spacecraft was so dark and dreary. As for the image of the black hole there, it looked like maybe a gown that I think that the Blue Fairy wore in Pinocchio. In reality, black holes are presumed to be something like collapsed stars, very dense with a tremendous gravitational pull, so strong scientists theorize that not even light can escape them, so you can't really see a black hole. But the film, I guess it has to give us something to look at, and this is the only time now that the black hole is even remotely exciting, when the crew gets close for a visit. Too close.
Air brake amidship. Losing oxygen.
Charlie, give me a full burst at 180 degrees, main thrusters.
We've got a break here, too.
Emergency readout shows the primary and secondary airlines ruptured.
Never rains.
Full pitch attitude thrusters, A and B rings. The black hole is pulling us in.
Going to manual.
Cross between a bathtub drain and a blue donut. That sort of thing is the kind of thing we expected to see all throughout the black hole. No such luck. Most of the film is about the crew investigating that other big missing spaceship and a villain they find on it. Only in the last few minutes do we actually get into the black hole. Then it's exciting, but wow, it's a long, long wait.
I've got to agree with you on this one, Gene. It is a long wait, and it's been a long wait for this movie, too. Disney's been talking about it for 2 and 3 years. Their big $20 million science fiction extravaganza, and the last thing we expected, I think, from Disney, which has been so innovative over the years. I mean, they gave us the full-length animated feature. They gave us a lot of great science fiction pictures earlier, like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. What do we see here but a little robot, looks like a salt shaker, ripped off from Star Wars, but his eyes are painted on. He just turns his head. It's not even great animation. And another robot in this picture that looks like Darth Vader from Star Wars. This is not an original picture. I think at Christmas time, when we go to a new Disney science fiction movie, we want to see something we haven't seen before. Yes. And this is crummy as far as new science fiction is concerned.
Absolutely. In fact, when we get in the black hole, it's frankly a lot like 2001. You know, I got to ask the question, at least raise it. Can Disney make a good film anymore? It's been a long, long time since we've seen them. Both you and I love their early work. I wonder what's going on. Are they afraid of Walt Disney's memory or something? Why isn't this picture better? It's very disappointing. Little kids may like the last few minutes. I don't think an adult will at all.
You know, you are right that there isn't a lot of, they didn't take many chances here. The cast, for example, is a bunch of stars that maybe were supposed to go see Ernest Borgnine or something. Star Wars had people we hadn't seen before doing things we hadn't seen before. Yeah. In this movie, it's a brand new movie that seems very familiar.
Yeah.
It's really funny. But, you know, we're asking why Disney doesn't make pictures like they used to. People are always asking me why they don't make movies like they used to. And the funny thing, after seeing The Electric Horseman, one of the first things I thought was that it is the kind of movie they used to make. It's a romantic comedy that begins with a man and a woman and a horse, and then it works things out just about perfectly. By the end of the movie, the man and the woman are in love with each other, and they're in love with a horse, of course. The Electric Horseman stars Robert Redford as a broken-down rodeo cowboy who's been hired as a pitchman for a breakfast cereal company. And he's mad about the way they're treating him and the horse, so he steals the horse and goes into hiding in the desert. Jane Fonda, as a persistent television news reporter, tracks him down, and then in this scene, Redford, Fonda, and the horse find themselves in a camper and about to be captured by a Nevada posse. Redford has a kind of a nice boyish quality there, kind of like Clark Gable. He couldn't really escape like that in real life, I suppose, but The Electric Horseman isn't supposed to be realistic. It's an old-fashioned adventure romance that asks us to accept a few improbabilities, like this scene, where Fonda the reporter wants to take her television equipment along as she follows Redford into the sagebrush.
I gotta get to a phone and warn Gus. If they spot that camper, they're gonna trace...
I'm just trying to be pleasant. You get so worked up about everything.
Well, what have I got to be worked up about? I've only got a stole horse. Everybody except the Coast Guard's after me. I got nothing but miles of open country to cross. Now I'm carrying a crazy woman around wearing shoes from blooming birds and thinks she's seen a rattlesnake roundup. Go and pick it up if you're taking it. Well, it ain't going on my horse.
Your horse.
Jane Fonda and Robert Redford, great chemistry. The Electric Horseman isn't a deep, thoughtful, profound movie, but it's got a lot of warmth and a lot of good humor. Redford and Fonda kid each other a lot in this film. They fool around. They pretend they're more interested in other things. You know, he's interested in the horse, she's interested in getting the story, but then there's the big scene where the horse has to look the other way.
That's the scene that I like in the picture. You're right. This is a sort of a simple, old-fashioned film, no great shakes, but we do like it when they kiss. That's the scene I enjoyed. You smile. I feel like not much of a film critic saying that, but you approach this film as a movie fan, I think.
I don't know why you wouldn't feel like a film critic.
Yeah.
In a way, that's the way this film is supposed to work on the audience.
Absolutely.
I think we were talking on an earlier show about how we think in the 80s, or at least I think we agree, that romance is going to be big in the 80s, boys and girls. And this is a picture that I think is a typical picture of the 80s. It's kind of a throwback, too, to the 40s, to the great teams like Tracy and Hepburn and Bogart and Bacall. They're directed, the screenplay, the acting, and everything is to set up this chemistry between Redford and Fonda, and I think it works.
It works very, very well. Okay, here's another picture that I like, at least. All That Jazz, for me, is a refreshing change of pace from an American film industry that I think seems to be catering to teenagers with little robots and all kinds of surfboard pictures. All That Jazz is for adults. It's a musical show business autobiography by Bob Fosse, who's choreographed and directed such Broadway musicals as Dancin', Pippin, and Chicago. On film, he's directed Cabaret and Lenny. Fosse suffered a near-fatal heart attack a few years ago, and that apparently got him thinking some cosmic thoughts about the meaning of it all. All That Jazz is then Bob Fosse's personal story. Actor Roy Scheider plays Fosse's alter ego Joe Gideon, a hard-driving show business director who's disillusioned at the way he uses actresses and dancers from his shows and the way they try to use him.
It's the
You have really got something special.
All right. I want so to be a movie star.
Oh?
Ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to see my face on the screen, 40 feet wide.
Oh, yeah?
I have always depended on the kindness of strangers. You're looking at my nose, aren't you?
Huh?
It's crooked. It goes to the left, see? I mean, like I could always have that fixed, like that. Do you think I could be?
Huh?
You know, a movie star, I mean. In the movies.
Well, I don't know anybody that could answer that question. It's a very freaky business, you know?
Yeah, I know all about that, but like, I want to know what you think. Do you think I could be a movie star?
No.
He's been through that scene before. Joe Gideon hates those temptations of the flesh. He's only happy, it seems, when he's creating a dance. So he has a lot of ups and downs in his life. He constantly worries about his own death during the film, and even in a musical dream sequence hosted by Ben Vereen.
There goes his baby with someone new. She sure looks happy. I sure am blue. He sure is blue. 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 I sure am blue.
A very entertaining musical number, just the sort of thing we expect from Bob Fosse. Now, I know a lot of people are going to go see All That Jazz and wonder what it's all about. It seems to me that what Fosse has done is sort of write his own obituary on film, the obituary of a creative man who's afraid his work just might be trivial. Joe suffers a heart attack and surgery in the movie, and he seems to view the attack as some kind of ultimate punishment for all those times he didn't do his best. At the same time, it's very clear that Joe Gideon and Bob Fosse both love dance, love to watch it, and best of all, they love to create it. So for me, All That Jazz is a fresh film. I found it very entertaining.
I found the dance numbers really entertaining. I have a funny reaction to this film. I really love the choreography. There's a lot of energy, a lot of inventiveness there. I didn't like the story of the guy's life. I found it very confused. It's kind of fragmented in a Fellini sort of way. I might get back to that in a second. And he's talking to the woman in white who wanders through the film. He's talking to her about his fears, about his life, and so forth. I couldn't follow it. I couldn't understand it. And I walked out of the theater behind a woman who said, you know, when you go to a musical at holiday time, you don't really expect to see open heart surgery. I think I kind of understand what she was talking about.
So you like the dance and you don't like the story. And you know, that's a common reaction to the picture. And unfortunately, I think that that's exactly what this guy intended who made the picture, Bob Fosse. He likes the dance and he doesn't like the story. And the story for him is his own life when he isn't creating dance. So I think that the very reaction you had is sort of the proper reaction. And it's a common story. It's not just a show business story. It's a story of people, for professional people, who manage their creative lives very well, and their personal lives go to pot. And I think that he does that very well, Roger.
Well, but there's a funny thing that I kept thinking when I saw the movie. There's a movie called 8 1/2 by Fellini that you know about.
One
it's
of the
very
great
famous,
films.
one of the great films from the 60s, about a movie director who's unsatisfied with his life, who's caught between his wife and his mistress, who is badgered all day long by his backers about a project that he can't complete, who's worried about death, and who always talks to this woman in white who is his muse or his angel of death. I think it's kind of ironic. Bob Fosse makes a movie about his own life, and it turns out to be Fellini's life.
So what are you saying? It's not as good as 8½? I agree with you. It's not as good as 8½, but what's up on the screen I found very entertaining.
Okay. Disagreement? Move right along. You know, there are a lot of movies at holiday time that crowd into the theaters, and usually a couple of good ones get overlooked. This year, my nomination for the best overlooked holiday movie is Cuba, a thriller starring Sean Connery as a British mercenary hired by the Batista regime in the final days before Castro took over in Cuba. Now, this is a movie that sounds like one of those awful action pictures with 17 third-rate international stars, all of them in bit parts, falling out of airplanes and blowing up bridges. But the fact is, it's an uncommonly intelligent and witty film that really does recreate the mood of Cuba 20 years ago. The movie's about an aging hero in a lost cause and about the girl he also lost a long time ago and who he's rediscovered now that it's too late. The hero is Sean Connery. The girl, who's now married, is Brooke Adams, and they meet again in a nightclub.
It's been, as they say, such a long time.
Oh, stop it. It seems like yesterday to me.
Really?
Would you excuse me a minute?
Alex, about 3 hours ago,
Robert.
we went to a...
Did I ever know your second name?
Well, of course you did.
I did.
You wrote to me. It got to me. I can't believe that I was only Robert in the British Army.
Yes, Robert. I should introduce you to my husband. For that, I need your second name. Juan, this is...
Nobody?
Robert. For the life of me, I can't remember your second
Daves.
name.
My name is Robert Daves.
You must come and visit us. Do you play polo? Would you like to meet anyone in the government? Of course, if there's enough money involved, you can meet Batista himself. What line of business?
Tractors!
Violence preceded by jaded sophistication, the Sean Connery trademark. There are a lot more assassination attempts, fights, and shootouts in Cuba, and they all seem real, maybe because the characters involved in them are middle-aged, weary, cynical, tired. Cuba has a lot of history in it, and some finely tuned, funny dialogue, too. And of course it has Sean Connery, who is nostalgic about the courageous lost causes of years ago, but who is now much more absorbed by his rediscovered love than by anybody's revolution.
We got another disagreement. For me, I hear the things that you say are in the picture. I didn't really feel they were there. I was disappointed at some very fundamental levels. I expected, frankly, more of a love story, a real engagement between Connery and Brooke Adams in the film. I didn't feel it was there. I saw a lot of machine gunning, sure, but for me, all that was sort of an expansion of, you know, the 20 minutes in Godfather 2 where the Batista regime falls. We know what it's going to be like. The rich people get it, and the people in the uniforms shoot them off.
I don't know. I thought the film had a real feel for the dynamics of that time and place, for Havana, right before Castro took over. It had a lot of minor characters that were well developed. There's a corrupt American businessman. There's a corrupt Cuban general. They're made into interesting people. It's not just a bunch of cardboard cutout figures. I really got involved in it.
Okay, a disagreement. You say, though, that that film was overlooked. I think
Yes,
I found the overlooked movie for the holidays, Going in Style, which stars George Burns and Art Carney and Lee Strasberg as three retired old men who share the same apartment in New York. Just about all these guys have is each other. They take walks, they sit in the park, they sit quietly at home at night and watch TV, or they just stare off into space. The film gives us, I think, a nice sense of what it's like to be old in America. A lot of the time, apparently, it can be very depressing. But to rescue himself and his friends from their boredom, George Burns has an idea to liven things up a bit.
How would you guys like to go on a stick-up with me?
What was that?
I said, how's about we all go on a stick-up? It's foolproof. If it works, we'll be in great shape. If not, maybe they'll give us 3 years. Maybe. That would be free room and board. And when we'd get out, we'd each have 36 Social Security checks waiting for us. That, by the way, adds up to $8,532 a piece. Not a bad piece of change. Maybe we could all put it together and buy one of them newspaper and candy stands, one of them big buildings in Manhattan. A friend of my son bought him one. Lives pretty good. But what the hell am I talking about that for? That's only if we get caught. And I don't think we'd get caught. Well?
Well, what?
Well, what do you guys think?
I don't know. It sounds like a great idea.
Willie?
What do you mean it sounds like a great idea? I don't know what you're talking about. Are you talking about actually doing this, or what?
Yeah, actually doing this.
And what do you know? After some resistance, Carney and Strasburg actually agree to go along with Burns' wild and crazy robbery plan. Now, judging from that, you might think that going in style with the robbery turns out to be a happy-go-lucky story about old people acting young. But no, going in style is much better than that, more complicated than that, more realistic. This film returns to its theme of loneliness, to the theme of the difficulty of making peace with old age. George Burns also ends up playing much more than a cute old man again. He gives us a genuinely touching performance here. I thoroughly enjoyed Going in Style. It's a holiday picture not to miss.
I enjoyed it too. I think it's one of the sleepers this holiday season. I want to emphasize what you said about George Burns. Here's a performer who's had a new career for the last 3 or 4 years.
Yes.
Basically, though, playing variations of George Burns. And that's not bad at the age of 83 to play George Burns or anybody else. But in this film, he plays a brand new character, a person we haven't met before. It's really good acting. It's a creative performance. I thought it was a real treasure.
I like the fact that this treats older people straight. It doesn't make them cutie pies, you know. That's easy to do when we laugh at them. Oh, look, they can ride motorcycle, robs banks. This film touches the loneliness. They do get involved with death. They contemplate their own a lot. And it's a good, good story.
I think maybe the moral might be movies like Electric Horseman and Kramer versus Kramer, which are big holiday successes, are going to be around for a long time, so maybe the movie to see first would be Going in Style. For one thing, the lines are going to be shorter.
Well, look who's here to tell us which movie lines to stay out of. It's Spot the Wonder Dog telling us time for Dog of the Week, where we each pick the week's worst movies. 2 rotten dogs for you, Spot, this week.
Okay, Spot, my dog is Roller Boogie, about a bunch of roller skating kids on the boardwalk at Venice, California. Now, putting the kids on roller skates makes the movie look up to date all right, but Roller Boogie somehow looked curiously familiar to me, and no wonder. It's a ripoff of all those Frankie Avalon, Annette Funicello, Beach Blanket Bingo, Bikini Bongo movies from the 1960s. Take them off their surfboards and put them on roller skates and stick them in the same good old plot, and off we go. There's the local gang of cute kids, the handsome young hero, the stuck-up rich girl, and some mean old mobsters who want to tear down the roller rink. But everything turns out all right just in time for a big disco production number ripped off from Saturday Night Fever. Roller Boogie stars Linda Blair, who looks great on roller skates, and the roller skating sequences are fun, but once these kids take off their skates, they don't have anything to say to each other, and Roller Boogie falls flat on its face.
I'll avoid that. My Dog of the Week is one of the most pathetic comedies I've ever seen. It's Scavenger Hunt, about a competition among a whole bunch of people to try and inherit a $200 million fortune. The guy who died ran a company that manufactured games, so his will offers one last game, and that's why Richard Benjamin is fighting to collect a big black safe.
See these? See these? Look at these! See that?
Boy, is this dumb. People wander around like Tony Randall and Cloris Leachman. They run all over San Diego trying to swipe an entire toilet and a set of antlers. That's all there is to Scavenger Hunt, which is not only about collecting trash, this is trash.
Hey, another real winner, and so much for the dogs. Now let's take one more look at the major movies on this program. The Black Hole is the new science fiction space opera from Walt Disney. Has some dazzling special effects at the end, but the story just didn't thrill us, so it gets 2 no votes. Neither Gene or I can recommend you see The Black Hole, rated PG. But 2 yes votes for The Electric Horseman, with Jane Fonda and Robert Redford trekking through the Nevada desert with a prize racehorse. We had a big split and a major disagreement on all that jazz about the dying days of a Broadway choreographer. Gene liked its sharp-edged cynicism and dancing. He gives it a yes. I thought it was self-indulgent and chaotically organized, and I vote no. We have another disagreement on Cuba with Sean Connery in the final days before Castro. Gene says the movie lacks any tension and romance, and he votes no, but I think it's an unusually intelligent action picture, and I say yes, go see Cuba. Finally, we both say yes to Going in Style, the funny and bittersweet movie about 3 old guys who get tired of sitting on a park bench until George Burns decides to pull a bank robbery.
Well, that's all for this show. Next time on Sneak Previews, Roger and I will each pick the best movies of 1979, and we'll show you scenes from several of them. And our top 10 lists have a few surprises. Until then, see you at the movies.
Funding for Sneak Previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.